Computer. Hi, you guys. All right, so morning bar class is going to start on the floor. You might throw down a mat or not. We're going to do most of our initial work sitting. We'll do some kind of stretching out work, and then we'll lie down and do a few things in tabletop for the legs that should prepare them for the standing work, and also give you an alternative when you don't feel like standing up is the best option for you. Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and sit. I'm going to sit at a slight angle to you. You can sit cross-legged. If it doesn't feel good to sit flat on the floor, put something underneath yourself. And we're just going to breathe here. All right. We're breathing in a vertical position because that's how we do our bar work. You want to right away feel that the bottom of the pelvis, so your sitting bones, are balanced as much as possible and how they're relating to the floor or the cushion or whatever you're sitting on. And as you breathe in, with your knowledge of how inhale works and the assistance of gravity, you let that breath in drop down through the base of the pelvis and spread across the bottom of the sitting bones. Lightly Kegel. And as you exhale, feel the lift of that Kegel to the interior. Support the base of the breath as it rises all the way up, completing the exhale. Inhale through the nose. And then when it's time, Kegel, exhale. Through the mouth, gently rounded lips, breath rising up. And keep that going for a little bit. I personally find that when I'm sitting up versus lying down, it's a little easier to sense the inhale breath moving through the back of the body, even into the sides of the bottom ribs. And so that's a good thing to look for. Inhale moving down through the sides and the back of the body, not just filling the chest and the belly. And then exhale, rising up and lengthening you in that sort of holistic or three-dimensional way. And just breathe here for, 4 more rounds. And 3 more. When you're exhaling, notice whether or not you have a tendency to tighten across the axis of the hips or to clench the chest or the shoulders. You want to avoid both of those things. Maybe one more exhale here. And when you finish that exhale, if your legs are crossed, like mine are, go ahead and switch the one that's in front or on top. Usually it's the weird one now, so it'll feel odd. We're just going to rock forward and back over the base of the pelvis. Now the rocking doesn't have to be big or dramatic, just a little bit of articulation of the pelvis forward through the thigh bones. And then back up, forward, and then up. Extend your legs in front, and they don't have to be stick straight. You can still sit on your cushion. We're just going to have a little rounding of the spine forward, imagining that your back is against a wall. Inhale, nod, and visualize the back of your head sliding up that wall that you're resting on. And then exhale, soften through the outer surface of the vertebrae behind you and begin to spill forward. Moving down to probably the bottom of the ribs, the middle of the waist. We're going to keep the pelvis vertical and balanced. Inhale here, breath moving down and washing across the base of the sitting bones. Kegel between the sitting bones and lift that contraction upward and inward as you exhale and roll back up. Do that twice more, nodding the head as you inhale. Exhale and supporting the flexion, taking the tension out of the back, but definitely building length into your curve as you create it. At the bottom, have a breath in. And then exhale and roll back up. Do that one more time. And once you've rolled up, we're going to do a little thing for the legs. Yeah. So we start with the feet, and I realize I'm going to have to switch around or move back because I want you to be able to see my feet. You can still be sitting up on whatever you're sitting up on. And I'd like you to pull your toes back. On an exhale breath, we're going to start to push through the balls of the feet, stretching them away. And then finally over the tops of the toes, pointing. On your inhale, reverse that, pull the toes up. The balls of the feet come back and the heels reach. Continue that a total of 5 times, slowly articulating through the feet on your exhale. Feel a stretching and then drawing back and up. This time the stretch builds from under the back of the legs and heels. 3 more times. And this is a way of warming up the feet without standing on them. Last 2. And last 1. And then relax the feet and the legs. Now I'm going to, for the sake of the argument, start with the right leg. Actually, let's start with the left leg. You can keep your legs parallel to each other. I'm going to get my right one out of the way a little bit so you can see what's going on with my left one. I'm going to bend the knee just a little bit and pull the toes back. And then on the exhale, you're of course connecting up through your core. Feel this line, this medial line of the inner thigh starting to contract and to slide up away from the knee toward the middle of the muscle and with the pointed foot. Inhale, toes pull back. Heel stretches and knee releases. We're trying to get VMO. So this muscle on the exhale that supports the inner line, particularly of the kneecap. And if you have your fingertips here above this sort of teardrop shaped area above the kneecap or on the area above the kneecap, you'll feel when that muscle comes into play. Do that 2 more times. Now minimize the amount of pressure or contraction you put into the outer line of the knee. Often that's very well toned. It's this part that more often than not doesn't do its job as well. Okay, go ahead and shake that foot back and forth. And we do the same with the other leg. So I'm going to bring my leg back into line. Start with a release of the knee. We go for 6 of these guys. You're still connecting your core as you exhale. Your fingertips are lightly on that area that we want to engage. The heel reaches, the back of the knee stretches, this muscle comes into play, and then you point through the top of the foot. Inhale, flexing, releasing the knee, and exhale, stretching. So as you stretch through the knee, the ankle, the toes, feel also that you're stretching out of the hip. You'll feel a release here as you inhale. And then imagine someone's pulling on the bottom of your foot, helping to lengthen your femur out of the hip as the knee lifts up toward the middle thigh out of compression. 3 more. And again, none of this should feel crummy for your knee. If it does, it could be you're either out of alignment, parallel-wise, or maybe you're working too aggressively through a certain aspect of the knee. You back off a little bit. The idea is just to wake this stuff up, not to abuse the muscles or the joints. When you've done your last one, go ahead and shake out that leg a little bit. And then we'll lie down, and I'd like you to grab a ball or a block or even a towel. And you want it to be something that you'll not only use between the knees, but between the ankles and feet. If you have a flex band, if you have a pair of old tights or stretchy pants that you want to use as a flex band, you can do that, but it's not strictly necessary. I'm going to grab my thing here. All right, so block, ball, towel, so many options. And then lie down onto your back. Have your knees bent. And be in a neutral position. The hips are relaxed, and you're still feeling the inhale breath move down between the sitting bones. Everything is exactly the same with regard to the breathing, except that we're just in a different position in space. One more. Now on your next exhale, I'd like you to go ahead and make an imprint. Drawing the low back into a flexed position, tail reaching long and then up, spine dropping toward the mat, the pelvis going with it because those two structures are related. And then inhale, release to neutral. Very often we think of this as a pelvic movement, and I cue it that way a lot of times. But for today, I want you to think of it as a spinal movement. Your exhale sends stretch and length through the outer surface of the vertebrae, and the spine reaches long and then bends into flexion with the work of your lower abs. And release. Do two more imprints, and the last imprint you do, I'd like you to stay there. Now, of course, the pelvis moves too, because the bottom of the spine integrates with the pelvis. You want to let it roll easily around the hips. And then the next time you imprint, or the last time, we'll of course keep it. Once you're in your imprint, we'll exhale and come to the tips of the toes, lifting the heels, articulating through the balls of the feet. Up on the tips of your toes. Now lifting the leg, they're almost all the way off the ground anyway. Lifting the leg should be a little bit easier. We'll exhale. Keep the spinal posture and float one leg up. Do the same for the second side. And then extend the arms forward. We'll do a very brief set of arm reaches, really just to connect the ribs into the pelvis and to integrate both internally and externally through our posture. Prepare here with inhale, palms face inward, shoulders are back just as wide. And on the exhale, as you kegel and point your toes, reach the arms, preserving not just your posture, but your length and stretch through it. Inhale, hold, and exhale, return. Just two more. And again, we're chiefly warming up. Prepare with a breath in, set the shoulders, find your feet. Kegel, exhale, squeeze the thighs, and send your arms back. Hold for a breath and exhale, return. And final repetition. When you return from your last one, reach down and hug your knees. You can either grab them from behind the thighs or over the shins. Allow your tailbone to lift up a little bit and rock left and right just a smidge. And then continue to hug one leg in. And as you breathe out, stretch the other leg away. Inhale, pull that extended leg in and switch. Exhale, extending through the new side. And do that once more to each side. Find the muscles at the base of the shoulder blades that help to support the work of the arms. And use those bigger muscles in the middle back rather than the smaller muscles in the neck to stabilize your arm movements or your arm strength. Now here's where we want to put the little something between the feet or ankles. You can try a ball if you have that. Rolled up towel. I'm going to use a yoga block this morning. And then holding on to whatever it is you're holding on to, keep the knees in this close position. If you need to, you can slip your hands under the bottom of your pelvis. We want to keep imprint and then flex the feet and prepare to extend the legs upward, almost like we would extend them in standing, except we're upside down. Yeah. Find those muscles right above both knees. Kegel, exhale, and extend the legs forward toward the ceiling as you engage those muscles that support the inner line of the knees. And of course, the inner thighs. You can point through the toes if it won't make you drop your thing. And then inhale, bend the knees, drawing them back toward the torso. Kegel from the feet, squeeze inner thighs, firm the abs, and push the legs toward the ceiling. Feel those muscles inside the knees doing their thing. And then inhale, bend. We do 3 more, so a total of 5. Last 2. Connecting your core internally, preserving the length through the posture that you're holding. And last 1. Bend the knees. Take the block out or whatever you're using and exhale, lower a foot at a time to the floor. Last thing in our warm up here, take the block and put it between the knees or whatever you were using. Release to neutral spine. And we finish it off with 3 hip rolls. Then we're on our feet. Take a breath and feel the feet spreading into the floor. All 10 toes are planted, the heels are centered. And then begin your hip roll with your imprint. Exhaling, lengthening, and flexing through the spine. Rolling through the hips. And pressing down through the feet from the back of the legs. Back of the legs pressing behind the pelvis as the abs pull the pubic bones forward. The glutes finish the extension. And at the top of the position, you're in neutral. Feel the calves and the hamstrings pulling together and the knees and the shoulder tops lengthening away from each other. Inhale. Keep your feet, Kegel, exhale, and roll down. Avoid stiffening or gripping the chest or shoulders. Gripping is my new word today. Returning completely through neutral. And do 2 more, please. Exhaling, beginning to roll up. Core support and abs working as the back of the thighs pull behind the pelvis and the abs draw the front of the pelvis upward. When you hit the top, you get that connection in the back of the legs and that stretch through the front of the body. And exhale, roll back down. Allowing movement through the axis of the hips because we're not gripping there, we're moving through there. And do the last repetition, please. And after you've rolled down, you can take a moment, stretch your legs, catch your breath. And as we're getting up and putting the mat aside, know that if there's ever a day or a time within the workout where doing in particular like the plies or the knee bends in standing or even standing on one foot, you can duplicate more or less the same thing lying down in imprint. Even with the one leg or single leg work, might require a flex band, and it certainly requires a little bit of creativity, but you can always ask if you want a modification for that. And you can always just take that if that's the right thing for you. All right, so lecture done. We're going to come to standing and use the block or whatever you're using between your knees. I'll get my mat out of the way. And I'll just change the angle of my screen a little bit here. There we go. Hopefully you can still see my feet. I changed it too much. And we'll get going. So like we did on the ground, we'll just pause for a moment and do some breathing. And really not long, just 3 rounds. On your feet, in your vertical neutral position. Inhale downward through the base of the hips, Kegel, and exhale upward. Do that 2 more times. And 1 more time. And then with the hand lightly on whatever surface is nearby, we're going to walk through the feet. 1 heel up, and then the other, alternating across the sides. We won't do this for as long as we often do because we've already spent a fair amount of time warming up the feet. Ooh, that was a good pop. 1 more each side. And then heel down. Lift up onto the ball of the foot and over the top of the toes, onto the ball of the foot and down through the heel. Same side, do that 2 more times. And I want you to push off and lift the toes from the ground. Do a little knee bend, transfer your weight to the other side, and slowly lift the other heel. Come onto the tips of the toes, down to the ball of the foot and heel. And do that 2 more times, feeling the articulation of the foot, maybe pushing off. And last time. Yay. And stand. Now grab the blocker ball. Use a ball for this stuff. And put it between the inner thighs at some point where you can feel like the muscles have direct contact with the ball. And it can be the top of the adductors. I kind of like the bottom of them because I think for me it relates more directly to BMO, which is a challenge for me. It's probably why I'm nattering on about it this morning. Plant your feet, spread your toes, and exhale in preparation. From the feet, you squeeze the ball. You feel the base of the breath supported by the Kegel. On your inhale, bend your knees, track them forward. And then on your exhale, push from your feet, reaching through your heels, the back of the knees. And as you straighten those knees, feel the muscles on the front of the legs supporting them. The knees, yeah. Inhale, bend the knees. Relax the ankles and square off the alignment of knees to toes. And exhale, stretch. Please do 3 more of these. And last 2. Keep all 10 toes on the ground and try not to collapse the arches when you bend the knees. And keeping tone under the bottom of the feet. That also actually helps with the inner thigh line. When you straighten the legs, go ahead and inhale. And on your exhale, keep the tone here, keep the core, and simply press up to the toes. And we are exhaling to do this. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, stretch the legs, so the opposite breath pattern here. But now we exhale and stretch upward, in essence, reaching through the toes. Inhale, lower the heels. A little exhale to bend the knees and release over the fronts of those joints. And then inhale, straighten the legs. And exhale, rise. Do this 2 more times. Inhale down. Exhale, bend. Holding core tone even as you release hips, knees, and ankles. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, rise. The next one gets fancy. Exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, push long. Exhale, firm the connection to inner thighs and knee support. And now inhale in place. We're going to exhale and bend those knees. This time the heels lifted. Relax under the toes, but stay active in the arches and calves. Inhale, release the heels down. Exhale, straighten the legs. So now we're rising on the inhale. Exhaling, guiding the knees forward. The hips are back. Inhale, heels go down. Exhale, legs straighten. I'll give you the side view. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, as you bend the knees, you're going to have a little bit of a slide down, like you're on that wall I described initially. When you lower the heels, you'll probably need to tilt forward a little bit. And then straighten. Do 2 more. Inhale, rising. Exhale, bending. Can you work the calves and the feet without gripping the knees and the hips? Inhale. And exhale. And this last one, we make it a little fancy. Rise up on inhale. Exhale, bend into the knees. Stay here. Squeeze the ball a little bit more firmly and get a sense of the big toes really grounding as the rest of the toes fan out and spread forward. Your quad should be feeling it, but not your knees. Put the work in the midsection of those muscles and exhale, pulse downward. Inhale up a little. Exhale, pulse downward. And then up a little. 3 more. Now your quad should be talking to you, but hopefully not your knees. Inhale, lower your heels. Exhale, stretch your legs. Put the ball off to the side for a moment. We'll give the legs a little rest. You can stand on one or the other and just do little circles. It should feel like a pleasant release in the hip as well as the knee and the ankle. And we go the other way. And then other side. Start in the direction of your choice. And then, of course, go in both ways. Before continuing with legs, we'll take a side stretch. So have one hand on the midline, low belly, navel, right, something here, so that you can tell if your pelvis is tilting or your legs are coming out of true. We're going to bring right arm up. Now you can place the hand behind the head or continue to stretch it overhead. And we're going to start lifting up under the armpit and bending to the side. Feel a stretch here and then soften the side of the neck and the shoulder top and continue to stretch to the side. Inhale here. Now exhale and feel a response in the muscles of your core and return from side bending. We do that a second time. Inhale, begin to reach up under the back of the shoulder, and then exhale and stretch up and over. In this case, I'm going to my left, away from my right arm. Here, inhale into the open side of the stretch. Feel the big toes on the ground. Exhale. Lengthen upward and return. Reach that lifted arm across and take a twist for a moment. I like to hold the opposite hip. If you've got a countertop or bar, you can do that. Let that go. Second side, bring the new arm up, either hand behind the head or stretching over, ballerina style. Begin stretching up under the armpit and then take that initial part of the bend. Keep getting a sense of your midline stretching up and over, sort of like a wave curling up and over, a fountain of water. Get longer through the hips and the legs. Inhale into the open side. Kegel, exhale, and return. We'll do a second one on this side as well. Inhale, reach up, and exhale. Stretch up. So try not to crunch into the side of your waist that you're bending over. Square it off. Oh, I'm cheating on this side. Inhale, and exhale, return. Arm comes down and across. And you just have a little stretch here for a moment. Hips are square, pelvis is stable. All right, now we return to our inner thigh thing. And we start with the plies, or the plies into the arch of the foot. So right off the bat, we plant our feet. We have an exhale breath. And we'll return to bending the knees on inhale. Steady here. We've got our side posture. On the inhale, or on the exhale breath, pardon me, you're going to use strength into the feet from your calves, from under the arches, to begin lifting the heels upward. Your spine will adjust toward vertical. And then inhale, stretch the legs fully. And exhale, stretch the heels down. That should feel nice for your calf. Inhale, bend into the knees, allowing the neutral spine to adjust as the angle at the hips changes. And then exhale, do the work with your feet, not with your knees, not with your low back, not with your neck, certainly. Lifting the heels up. Inhale, stretching. And exhale, lowering. 3 more. Inhale, bend your knees. Exhale, working through the feet, heels adjusting. Spine able to start moving toward vertical. All the way up, reaching from big toes through the crown of the head. Exhale, lowering. And last couple. One more all together. Inhale. Exhale. Remembering the importance of inner thighs and inner quads. Stretch. Keep that and lower. Rise right back up again. Inhale. And exhale, firm inner thighs. We're going to work into the top of that extension in pulses. Inhale, bend the knees just an inch. And then exhale, it's about this muscle and core. Stretch. Bend a little. Pulse up and stretch. Again. Four more. I don't know if you can see my fingers. Lower the heels. Good. And put the ball to the side. Send your right leg back in a lunge. Leaning forward on the angle of that leg. And then softening the back knee a little bit. Using your abs to glide the bottom of the pelvis forward underneath you, straightening the spine above. Re-straighten back leg and bring that same arm up. And again, bend to the side. Now your side bend should get a little bit more into the front of the hip now. curve it forward, step forward, and with left hand maybe on the surface of whatever's providing your balance, extend right arm forward, and we're going to do our twist here, but this time toward the back, pulling the elbow, retracting the shoulder blade, return, and exhale, and return. One more. Arm comes down, and you turn and face the other direction, or we'll just simply bring the other leg back. I'm going to face the other direction. So stepping the leg back, have your lunge initially. Take your torso on the angle of the back leg and firm up that association. And then soften the back knee a little bit, and that's so that you can use your abs to glide the bottom of the pelvis forward, coming more toward vertical, stack the spine, re-stretch the back leg, a little deeper opening for the front of the hip, and raise the arm up. We're going to bend to the side again, now the new side. And then curve forward. Step back foot forward, make any adjustments you need to make. Then we have 8, where we pull the elbow back and twist in the direction of the elbows travel. Do that on your exhale and keep both hips facing forward. Try not to swivel over the knees or the ankles, but to truly turn from the waist. When you've done your last one, return and just rest with the arms. Grab your weights or whatever you're using. I'm going to shift the camera angle a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. With my arms and my shoulders. Yeah. All right. And we're actually going to start with this angle of the arms rather than this angle. So rather than elbows and wrists pointing forward, they're tracking along the inside of the body as we hold whatever we're holding in our hands. We're going to exhale here in preparation. Get into feet and legs and core. Inhale, and then exhale, one arm bends. Exhale, other arm bends. Now, as you're doing this, right, it seems like a pretty simple motion. We do a version of this at some point every day, probably. And I do at the table, bringing my fork to my face. Keep going. Back to my point. Make sure that as you're lifting the weight, even if it's just the arms, that you're not subtly tensing the muscles in the back. Right. So don't tense back here to lift the weight. I'm exaggerating. Firm in here. 2 more each side. Good. Now we're going to return to our lunge right away. We just worked the biceps. We're going to work the triceps, and I'll show you how that goes. I'm going to put my one weight down and have my lunge. I'm going to lean forward, and we start with the arm hanging long. I'm going to exhale, pull the arm back and extend. And then inhale, bend the elbow, and let the arm drop forward. So it's kind of a 2-stager, even though it's a 1 breath per phase. Right, the exhale, you draw the elbow back along your sides and extend, squeezing the triceps. The inhale, you release through the triceps and let the arm drop forward. 4 more, please. And we're trying to hold that line of the back leg through the torso. When you've done your last one, shake out that arm, and we'll go immediately to the other side. So the new leg gets a chance to be in front. We're stretched along through the back leg. And you're square, right? Your shoulders and your hips and your head, your whole posture is square and parallel. I'm occasionally turning my head. Begin on your exhale, pull the elbow back and extend the arm, just so I can see what you guys are doing, where you are. Exhale and inhale. First two movements are on the exhale breath. The final two movements are on the inhale. Feel the action of the shoulder blades on the back, especially as you begin to pull that weight back through the elbow. Steady there, open through the front of the shoulders each time you extend through the elbow and use the triceps. A total of 8. I think I've got 2 more to do. Sometimes I'm a little bit of a cheater here. Good. And release. Step forward. Okay. Now we will have the arms reaching in front of us. We're still in a parallel stance through the legs. If you find that having a ball or block in between the adductors is helpful in your connection to either ground or core, go ahead and use that. Scooch back a little bit. Now, I'd like you to do a biceps curl from this direction, and just one. We're going to do it with sort of the opposite breath. Prepare again with exhale, but then as you inhale, bend the elbows. As you exhale, continue to firm through the biceps and engage those muscles, but allow them to stretch, not dropping into hyperextension through the elbows, but really into a lengthening of the muscles. You'll feel the triceps as well as you extend through the arms. Keep front and back of the arms working together, and on your exhale, lift the arms forward of the shoulders. Inhale, let the arms drop down. We do 8 of these. Exhale, lifting. And of course, you're working the muscles in your forearms as you hold on to whatever you're holding. Using arm strength to do arm work rather than the neck. And as we do our final 4, trying not to counterbalance or initiate with the low back, but to really feel that deep response in core as a support for the movement and the work. And one more. Good. And relax. Alrighty. So, pardon me a minute. Let's see where we're going here time-wise. Good. So this next thing you can choose to do with weights or not. It's a hinge forward. It's a good morning, as we sometimes call them. And I'll give you the side view. We're going to be hinging at the hips rather than bending at the waist, right? And let's just go ahead and agree to use a block or ball between the knees. Now, if your hamstrings are super tight or if your knees are a little cranky, have a tiny bend. Yeah. We're again parallel here. And the arms are hanging by the sides. We're going to keep the shoulder girdles stable and prepare with an exhale. On the inhale, allow the hips to hinge and the arms just to hang in gravity. And then on the exhale, with your hips, your glutes and your hamstrings, begin to lift the torso back up and the arms just swing along with that line of gravity back along your sides. Inhale, hinge. And it can be tricky to hold stability through the shoulder girdle without gripping the arm muscles or the neck muscles to accomplish that. Feel the collarbones resting lightly on the surface of the upper ribs in front, and the shoulder blades behind hugging around the curved surface of the ribs beneath them. 2 more. Inhale, hinge forward. Feel a release and a lift up under the sitting bones. And then Kegel and exhale, support inside. And as you use glutes and hamstrings to lift yourself, don't overwork the low back. 1 more. Good. Okay. Go ahead and put your weights down for a moment. And hands are going to come to the hips. All right. We'll definitely bend into the knees a little bit. And we're going to take that forward crease or tilt from the hips. This time I'd like you to do it on an exhale. Kegel, squeeze the block, and lean the torso toward horizontal. All right, so kind of a push-up-like position. Now, I like to keep my hands here on the crest of the pelvis so I can feel behind if I'm tightening or initiating from my back, and in front, whether my exhale is truly affecting my core. We're going to inhale, bend the knees a little bit more deeply. You'll feel a deeper stretch through the hamstrings and across the base of the pelvis. And then exhale, begin to push the floor down and stretch the legs. They do not have to get straight. Inhale, bend the knees. And exhale, push the floor down with your feet. It's kind of like doing a push-up, but with your legs instead of your arms. Inhale, bend the knees. Exhale. Do this 2 more times. Get comfortable with keeping the core on your inhale as you bend the knees, and with using the core as you begin to push away from ground and rise. 1 more. Inhale, bend into the knees. Plus, you should get a pretty sweet hamstring stretch. And exhale, stretch your legs. Bend into the knees and round your spine. Inhale and exhale, roll up. Woo. Block goes off to the side. Okay. So we're going to pick up something away from the ground. I can't figure out where to be to see you. And reach it overhead. So without any props or modifications, it would look something like this. We have a wider stance. We have this thing on the ground, but we're still holding on to it. And we pick it up and push, right? Now, if the floor is really far away, you can start from a higher place. So you can put, I don't know, your weight or something on the edge of a block. So you don't have to bend as far. Easier for the back, easier for the hips. With reaching the arm, if you get up here and that feels way better than extending the arm upward, then go ahead and stop at that point. Okay, now having talked it to death, let's do 8 repetitions. So from wherever you are, exhale and inhale, put it down. Exhale and inhale, put it down. Now, as you bend and stretch the legs, ideally you're tracking the knees toward the toes, even if you've got a little bit of a turned out position through the legs. When you've gotten through your set of 8, go ahead and rest for a moment. Roll up. You might roll the shoulders out, pardon me, hiccup, and swing the arms. You can do any sort of stretch that feels good, and we'll go directly into the other side. So, new hand. All right, I'm going to start up. I'm going to inhale, put it down on the floor, and now we begin. Exhale. Inhale. 8 total, please. begin to feel that the downward press of the legs into ground not only encourages the exhale upward, but it encourages the arm upward. Last 2 or 3. And then again, rest for a moment. Okay. So pull your mats out once more. We're gonna lie onto the ground. I'll change my camera so you can see what we're doing. We're gonna finish off the work of the shoulders and the arms with some prone work into extension. We'll of course add in the rest of everything, but we'll get there when we get there. So mat down on the ground. Okay. It's going to be a challenge, I can tell. There we go. All right. So go ahead and lie prone and rest your forehead on your hands. Breathe here for a moment before starting. Allow the back of the pelvis to go a little soft. You might even jiggle a little side to side. Let's scooch a little bit more away from the door. And see if you can't feel the breath moving through the whole length of your spine. The inhale's moving down through the back of the pelvis. And the exhale still lightly activated from pelvic floor. Feel balance coming into the hips and the shoulders. Lots of length between those points. And then feel lots of length through the legs, from the inner thighs, pulling, drawing together through the extension of the knees, the point of the toes, and the activation of the feet. We're going to extend the hips by lifting both legs at the same time. Take a breath here, relax across the neck and the shoulders, and then exhale, pull long through the back of the knees, point the toes a little bit more, and lift the back of the thighs. Inhale, hold, and exhale, lower. Take a breath and repeat that on the next exhale, lifting the legs. Hold, and exhale, lower. 2 more times with the lift of the legs, getting a little bit longer in the waist as well. Feeling a little bit more through the inner thighs and a little bit less binding through the outer hips. Lift one final time. And keep the legs up. Now take a breath. I'd like you to keep your hands on the ground for this. Feel the balance of the body over the front of the pelvis and begin to exhale and pull your tail towards your heels. As you pull your tail towards your heels, draw your shoulder blades down away from your neck and just allow the chest to lift a smidge. Feel the muscles in your middle back and the back of your hips. Inhale here and exhale, everything lowers. Rest for a moment so you can again sort of shake up the hips. We're going to bring the arms down along the sides. And have them out away from the sides of the body, maybe, I don't know, 45 degrees. Come up onto the fingertips. We're going to, again, stretch the legs, but this time keep them on the ground. We have the inner part of the wrists and the elbows and even the fronts of the shoulders lifted away from the floor. And then inhale in preparation. Connect to your core on exhale. Pull long through the tail. Slide the shoulder blades toward the bottom of the ribs and lift the chest. Feel not only the bottom of the shoulder blades, but the whole framing of that bottom of the joint. Inhale and exhale to lower. We do again. Prepare, press lightly into the fingertips. Visualize the bottom angle of the shoulder blades, and as you exhale and engage your core, stretch your hips, your waist, glide the bottom of the shoulder blades, activating their border, lower traps, lats on the outside. Hold, inhale, and exhale, lower. Now take a moment, catch your breath. You can relax your arms. You can put a little jiggle into the hips if that feels soothing for the low back. One more exhale, release it in a kind of sigh. Return to your deep focus. Come again onto the fingertips, lifting the front of the wrists, elbows, and shoulders a little bit away from ground. And now exhale and lengthen through the crown. Bring the chest up just an inch. Not super high, probably not as high as you can go, but with the chest lifted, rebalance the shoulders, the legs, the pelvis, the hips. And on your next exhale breath, begin to lift the legs up. Balanced on the front of the hips, long through the back of the legs. Press down into the fingertips from the bottom of the shoulder blades and the back of the armpits, and lift the chest a little higher. If you're good here, take a breath and begin to stretch and lift the fingertips. Balanced on the front of the pelvis, you can squeeze down a little bit into the bottom of the shoulder blades, the angle through the triceps, the back of the arms, lengthen the neck. Inhale, exhale, one more time here. Stretch further through the legs. Inhale and exhale to get all the way down. Bring your hands under your shoulders and help yourself back into a shell stretch. So shell stretch, targeting specifically the bottom band of the ribs, the bottom of the shoulder blades, those muscles that you were working, and the spinal extension, the bottom of the glutes, the back of the legs. Your modification for this is to sit up and do the same shape through the spine without any pressure into the knee joints or top of the ankles. Wherever you are, whether you're sitting back on your heels or sitting up on your seat, begin to turn a little bit to the right. You're walking your hands to the right or maybe shifting them on the legs. Breathe in. And then returning through center, walking off to the other side. Breathe in. And then finally returning through center, maybe with the help of your hands, especially if you're sitting down onto your heels. Go ahead and stack your spine up, pushing the floor away, breathing in, breathing out, and sigh. And good job today, you guys. That's class. Of course, feel free to continue stretching and doing whatever you need to do to kind of polish off your practice this morning. I'm going to turn off the recording and we can have questions afterward if you have any.